Hi, welcome to Vaadin webinar about IntelliJ IDEA. IntelliJ is an increasingly popular Java IDE and it works very well with Vaadin projects. My name is Matti Tahvonen and I have a special guest from JetBrains, Breandan Considine, and he is joining via Hangout from Texas.
From California right now, but yeah, we're kind of in different sides of the world right now, but it's great. We have this Google Hangouts, and we can talk just like we were right next to each other.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'd love to go to Finland, but I think this is really convenient. Thanks for setting this up, and thanks for having me today, Matti.
Thank you, and thank you for joining. And we will be discussing mostly about IntelliJ and how IntelliJ's best features can be used with Vaadin projects and in Vaadin development. So there was actually some questions raised in the entry form about that were strictly related to Vaadin development, but you can just ask those on the forum. We will not be covering those today. But in the end of the webinar, we will be answering some IntelliJ and Vaadin related questions that you raised, and you can still raise them on the forum if you want, or if you get new questions on the forum, we might have some time to answer those as well. So about the agenda today, we will first show one answer to maybe the most commonly asked question, how to do a proper Vaadin project setup in IntelliJ. And once we have done that, we will also discuss a bit about creating extensions to Vaadin, and that's pretty much Google Web Toolkit development. So Breandan will actually show a sneak preview of the upcoming SuperDev Mode, and IntelliJ has a very good integration to that one. It's actually going to be the first one that really supports with SuperDev Mode, so that's going to be something very exciting if you want to make some extensions to Vaadin.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to that. I think it'll be really helpful for GWT developers to use in IntelliJ 14. It works pretty well together. In the past, it was a little bit difficult to get it working, but I think we're slowly improving our support, and we're really happy to be able to support Vaadin and GWT and show that to you today.
Yeah. We will start with the Vaadin project setup, and we will be creating a kind of a real-world application setup for Java EE. So you can quite often choose a different kind of backend for your Vaadin application. Some people like to use Spring, some people like to use Java EE, and today we have just chosen Java EE, but we are also using Maven, because most of the Vaadin users and most of the Java developers in general use Maven for their enterprise applications. So this is actually an example that we have prepared for this exercise. So we have one parent project. It has only one module at the moment, which is our backend module. And in the backend module, we have actually only just two classes. It has a standard AGP POJO here, and it will give you measurements. And the measurement class is just a simple Java POJO that has a measurement time, date, and double as a temperature. The AGP creates just some random data, but you could kind of imagine that you'd have some real-world service there. It could either provide some JPA entities or some other data, whatever. But the real gotcha is here that how you will hook these AGPs to your actual Vaadin application and how you should set up your project. So I have already this multi-module Vaadin Maven setup here, but I want to create a Vaadin application here. And I will create it by starting a new module and choose Maven and Vaadin application archetype. So I can access the archetypes directly from IntelliJ UI but you could also do this from the command line if you want, and then import the project to your IntelliJ. So IntelliJ supports different kind of build systems. One is Maven, then it supports Ant, I think, and it also supports SPT. Okay.
Yeah, there's three major ones that we target. So it's Maven, Ant, Gradle, and then we have some Scala support as well.
Okay, so I think we have some technical problem here. Sorry. Okay, now I got to go. Sorry.
What seems to be the issue?
Yeah, there was just a mouse on your face, so nothing serious actually. The mouse pointer was just in front of your face, nothing serious. Okay, let's continue. So let's create the Vaadin application, and we chose it to be created as a module on the actual enterprise project where we have a separate backend module, and we will call this web module, which is built with Vaadin, we will call it as a web UI. And then just choose the latest Vaadin version, create it, web UI as a module name also. And then IntelliJ will use Maven to create the project, but it will also configure it automatically. So now we have all the class paths set up, and we have a theme set up, a basic Vaadin theme for the application, and then just a simple hello world example application here. We will want to show those temperature readings that we have in the AGB with Vaadin charts. So let's add Vaadin charts here, and we can actually add Vaadin charts pretty easily with IntelliJ because I have been using IntelliJ and Vaadin charts before. So I can just choose to find existing Maven module, and there I can find Vaadin charts, which contains a class called charts, and then add it there. Now IntelliJ added it to the POM file, so we should have Vaadin charts here automatically, right there, and then okay, I can also import the change configuration, but then also import the class and choose Vaadin charts instead of JavaFX. So now we have Vaadin charts there, and if we want to complete the add-on usage in Vaadin, we also need to recompile the widget set. So we will practically recompile the quit module that is built for communicating with the server side. So that can be done with the server side, with the Maven target. So let's start up this Maven project. Is it Maven projects? Yeah, that one. So here we can access all the different targets or life cycle targets from the package, and we can just choose, well, install or package. It doesn't matter because we don't have any tests in this example setups. And this will trigger the build, or it should trigger, okay. So there's something wrong in the backend actually. Let's try with the web application there. Install. Okay, now it's building the widget set and recompiling that. In the meantime, we can actually create actual chart here. Chart. And chart needs some data, so let's add some. And Breandan, you can also give me some hints when I'm using IntelliJ, because I'm actually very newbie with IntelliJ. I have just been using just a couple of weeks IntelliJ so far.
Oh, that's all right. We all start somewhere.
Yeah, and actually, I think right now I would need to use this kind of distraction-free mode. So
sure.
So
here I'll take over from my side.
Yeah. So I would, yeah.
On my screen here, so I'll switch from my webcam to my screen.
Yeah.
And share that. Okay. So we can see in my editor, as Matti's writing his code, simultaneously it shows up on my side and his. We're using a plugin called Bluebits, and that's pretty cool. But so we're going to add some data to this chart so it can populate it, and then we'll be able to display that in a little Vaadin web app. And so when we're adding the list here, then we can add that component, and then finally below here you'll see that there's an anonymous inner class. And so what we can do in IntelliJ IDEA is we can press Alt-Enter, and I'll replace this with a nice little lambda expression, and IntelliJ IDEA will pop up a little quick fix. There's a light bulb beside that. You can see that again if we just press undo, and then we can right-click, or we can usually it will have an inspection right there for us, so that we can replace that. If in order to do that, you have to be on language level 8 and above. So if you're using an SDK that's lower than that, then we won't suggest that to you.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, then we have all of our type annotations and things like that that will help you along the way. So if you have any code that needs to be migrated, then we'll allow you to do that. So if you open up your settings, you can find a bunch of these inspections or intentions. Inspections are, you have to run them directly. So you have to deliberately open this up and say, I'd like to run this inspection. But an intention, it automatically, in certain areas, then it'll show us places where we can migrate the code. So for instance, if we say migration, then there are a ton of language level migration aids, starting from Java 1.5, introducing generics and so forth. Okay, so it looks like that we're using 1.8 right now. So in addition to that, we can write some pretty cool things with streams. So occasionally you'll run into a place where you have a loop where each of these, say you want to, it's a simple for loop here, and then we'd like to iterate over some elements inside an array list, and let's say for each of the elements inside the measurements list, then right now it doesn't have any, but we can pretend it has some right now. Then we're going to add this to our calendar. Okay, so we can do this just by copying this as well. Okay, and then so if we go to certain place inside the for statement, this will automatically suggest that we replace this with a stream. And right now this doesn't seem to be working, but typically it would replace this with a stream where we're just going to go through here, the measurements, and it will stream this. And then for each of these, it's going to replace this with, you're going to do a calendar add, and then and so forth. Okay.
Yeah. So full Java 8 support is there for IntelliJ.
Yes. Yeah. So we can do this in a number of places, but usually it will display a little light bulb right beside the area where you can migrate it to.
I think the problem was there because the backend project was actually configured to use Java 7 beforehand, but now it's actually, I changed it on the fly to Java 8 and now it didn't reload it. But that's okay. Let's now get back to the Vaadin application where I have added the chart, and now let's deploy this into some example server. Like I have been using Tommy for light Java EE project. So if I want to run this, I'm using this Ultimate edition, this commercial edition of IntelliJ, and there is a built-in support for lots of different servers, and I can choose local Tommy here, and I want to open web UI from the local host, and then I want to add deployment also to the server. And I'm using this web UI var file exploded. I'm not sure if I should use the var or exploded. It doesn't matter that much. I think this is a bit faster because it doesn't create the actual zip file for var file. So let's use that one and also name that as a local Tommy like that. And now we can just now we can just click debug there and it should start Tommy. Okay. I will need to change the module settings as well. We are playing with Java 8 too much here. Okay, now I should have Java 8 there. And now let's click it again. Okay, there's still the actual target format is still wrong.
Yes, when Matti and I were exploring this, there's a few areas where you have to be careful when you're working with language migration here in Vaadin and IntelliJ IDEA. And if you're using the Maven configuration, then you'll need to change it in a few specific places. One, inside the POM file. Two, inside your project settings. So you want your modules to be on language level 8. And also you want to be using the correct SDK because IntelliJ IDEA has a separate compilation from Vaadin. So when you from Maven. So when you do a Maven build, it will run it inside Maven, and then IntelliJ IDEA has its separate build process as it's building your, incrementally kind of compiling the project, and all of those will need to be on language level 8 in order for you to get the full kind of feature set, all the inspections and intentions and so forth.
Yeah, so start with the right build level when you set up your project. Don't change it on the fly that much. And actually, I think here we had a problem because we are using this shared project at the moment. So what was this tool called? It was Flubits.
Yes, yeah. So that was something we kind of discovered a little while back, and it's been a lifesaver. I mean, if you're doing any kind of collaboration, it works really well. Like it just as you type, but it's just like Google Docs except for code.
Yeah. And you can still use your local IDEA. So that's something pretty impressive. I have been playing with some of these cloud IDEs, and they really don't work that well as you would expect from a real IDE. So that's a kind of a problem.
Yeah, it's kind of a thin layer that goes right over whether you're using like Vim or if you're using Emacs or whatever editor you have, and it'll just sync it all together. So it's and it also has like this web application as well that seems to work. But when we use it, like you can do it inside a screencast or things like this, and it's been pretty helpful. So there's a few plugins that we've talked about a little bit, and one of them is that, and then another one is the presentation assistant. So as you're typing, if you're doing any kind of stuff like this, we usually use that because it'll display a little pop-up on the bottom of your screen to show which hotkeys you're using.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar with them. So.
Okay.
But
I think
so. This is a good point to probably talk about the difference between IntelliJ IDEA Community and the Ultimate version. And so in Community, it's a little so you have support for Maven, you have all your build tools and things like this, and then in Ultimate Edition you can use a bunch of plugins that we provide for developing Vaadin apps natively inside IntelliJ IDEA without using a separate build system or something like this. And it also has additional support for some other tools and frameworks. So, for instance, Matti mentioned earlier, we support the Scala toolset. So, if you do any Scala development, the SBT toolset is kind of invaluable for you. So, we have native support for that. When you're building a new project, we have wizards that will kind of set up all the project for you, so you don't have to muck about with configuration files.
Yeah.
And
we will,
by and large, it seems to work pretty well.
Yeah, we will discuss about this SBT build support in the questions section. I actually don't know now how I should configure the build. Can you help me here? Because if I'm trying to deploy it here,
let's see.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes. Yep. I can see.
Yeah.
So let's see, and
it still says that the source release 8 requires. I thought
source and target.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see if we go under the file here, 1.6. Are we using that anywhere? It looks like we're already on 1.8 in the project object model. The source and targets are both on 1.8. And if we go under our project settings in the module, looks on mice. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like we're both on language level 8. And
yeah. I'm pretty sure this is related to this code sharing tool that we actually started to use because it worked perfectly beforehand. So.
Well, let me see if I can run it on mine because it might be something.
Okay. You can try to deploy it, and I can try to switch it into real Java EE project at the same time.
Okay. So let's see. I'll switch over to my screen again.
Yeah.
And looks.
Artem, can you show Breandan's screen?
I think it's on my end. So, like, I just looks like it's building correctly for me. Let me just
it's definitely on my side this error now, but I think it got mixed up with your build settings. So the Maven plugin has Java 8, and IntelliJ should have Java 8.
So I just ran the local configuration, and here when I edit my configurations, this is somewhere that sometimes people get kind of caught up with. So if you look under the TomEE configuration here, so when we set up our project, we have this TomEE plugin, and this is a Tomcat plugin for Maven, if you're familiar with that. And then it works very well with IntelliJ IDEA as well. So we just pick up all that configuration, and then you can specify some any VM parameters or flags that you'd like to pass into the server here. And then after launch, it'll automatically launch your default browser if you'd like. And then you can specify any Tomcat server settings, and this will be synced with the project object model file, so the POM file in the XML. That will all be synced as well. So you can see that seems to work. Seems to be working for me now. But if we just inspect that and we go to it's a plugin for Maven here. Okay. Let's hide this. All our files are up to date. And let me just try opening up my local host here. And I'm going to go to the web UI. And so it should be running. It usually opens up my browser for me, but sometimes it doesn't. There's also this this plugin that we use for Chrome. It syncs with your IDE as well. So, oh, it looks like this address is already in use. So I've already found this this other address. So why don't I change the port to say okay.
Nothing found.
Okay, so this is
yeah, I think this is definitely now an issue with this.
So different.
Yeah.
So this is one of the problems of using if it automatically updates, then it's trying to sync both of our IDs together.
Yeah.
So
and we are it's kind of trying to also share the IDE settings, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so now I've changed the port, and I'll click OK here, and but it seemed to compile correctly for me, Matti. So maybe that was something to do with it seemed to run fine for me when I ran the configuration. So let's see. I'll try that one more time.
Maybe we could just skip now this deployment stuff and get to actually combining this backend project to our.
Well. Yeah. While this is running, did you? So I can go over the GWT stuff if you'd like.
Yeah, I can show the Java EE integration stuff there on the actual. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So if you use Java EE projects, then you probably want to use Vaadin CDI. So then you will mark your Vaadin UIs with CDI UI annotation. And you need to add dependency to Vaadin CDI add-on. I'm using the beta 2 release now. And then when you have actually marked this UI with this CDI UI annotation, you can actually get rid of the servlet totally. So you don't need to have any servlets at all. And Vaadin CDI UI will automatically, when the container starts, it will automatically introduce a servlet, which will serve this Vaadin UI as a default one. And now this is actually, this CDI UI is kind of a managed bean for Java EE. So you can use CDI injection right here. So we can, for example, use AGB annotation, which can be added from some Java EE API. So let's choose that one. And then we can just inject it here, this, okay, I will need to import the settings, and then my service, what was the name for our class? My service bean. Yeah, so we want to refer to this AGB. So then we want to add dependency also to this project and then just inject it there. Okay, import. Like that. And now I can just populate this chart from the AGP directly. So my service bean get the latest. So now we are actually we are just looping through the measurements that we get from our backend, and then we can create a different kind of data series for the chart. So let's call it data series. And add all those measurements to the data series. Sorry. Like that, measurement get time and measurement get temperature. Pretty easy. So with Vaadin applications, you are very close to your data, like your AGPs or any other services in the JVM. So you can directly populate the data from your AGP. So no need to expose any REST APIs or anything, but you can just use your data right in your UI code. That's pretty simple, I'd say. Actually, there we also need to replace this dummy list series with the actual series. And that's it. Pretty easy, I would say. Too bad this Tommy now broke. I cannot compile it because of the Java 8. I could actually try once more, because I'm actually not using anything related to Java 8 at the moment. So let's try here and import changes, or let's try actually with Java 7. And now. Okay, it's still requiring Java 8 for some reason. Yeah. Okay, but that's kind of a basic structure that you would use for simple Java Vaadin Java EE application. So you have the separate backend, and if you have REST services or anything, have a separate modules for those as well, and then have a separate module for your Vaadin UI, and then just make the dependencies between your well separated modules there. We can publish this example actually later on in the GitHubs after the webinar, so then you can see how it works. And let's not publish these flu bits configs there, so it should actually be pretty easy to actually deploy it. And we can also add a Tommy Maven plugin there. So if you are using this, if you are not using this Ultimate Edition of IntelliJ, then you can also deploy it with the Maven target just by choosing Tommy run target from the Maven build. And that's pretty much how you want to develop if you are not using the Ultimate Edition, the commercial version.
I think usually if you have just a regular community edition, then you can use the Maven build service build tool, and then that will do everything for you. And additionally, if you have support for Vaadin, then we do some pretty cool things. We can do GWT and Vaadin specific inspections, and so these are just one part of that. And then another one is the ability to use first of all the project creation wizard to create your project with a in a Vaadin configuration, and then you can also use GWT to kind of configure it. To if you have any kind of Vaadin specific widgets that you'd like to build. So we'll demonstrate that we'll demonstrate that now.
Yeah, let's get to that one. So usually, if you are using making Vaadin extensions, then I would use Vaadin archetype widget to create the setup. But it's pretty same as doing just some regular quit development, and this is exactly what Breandan is now going to show.
Yeah, and maybe if you have an example of what the charts app was going to look like, we could bring that up, and then you can show that afterwards or something.
Yeah,
because the charts app is really cool. Like I was playing with that before.
Yeah, actually, when
we started the webinar, and that was looks really great.
I can actually recreate the project while you are showing the quit development, and then I can show that after that one. So
sure, that would be great. That would be great, because I know Vaadin has put a lot of work into making the charts app. You know, the look very smooth. It has splines. You can do all this great stuff, and it looks really great. Okay, so now we'll just show how to do in your typical build process. How would you build and deploy a GWT app? I just have an example here, a short example, and we've showed this a little bit before, but this is some new features that we're looking forward to releasing in IntelliJ IDEA 14, and these will affect your kind of development lifecycle and make it a lot easier for you to develop more productively and efficiently. So here inside my run configuration, I can select to enable SuperDev Mode, and what this will do is it will it's a different kind of build process for Google Web Toolkit applications, or GWT applications. They changed the name. And we can open it in our browser, and there's a separate JavaScript debugger as well. So when you're creating your project, open File and select New Project here. You'll need to select, if you're using IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate, we have a Google Web Toolkit facet. And what facet in IntelliJ IDEA is either a technology or a collection of frameworks that we'll use to build your project. And you'll need to have the GWT SDK. Vaadin, I think, uses the same 2.6.1 edition, and then we can create a sample application if you like, and then this will build it for us. Additionally, you'll need to have an application server, and so typically you can use whatever one you like. But there's built-in support for Tomcat, so we'll just use that right now. And then if you do any kind of EE development, then you can have an EE version as well. So when you created the project, it'll first look something like this, and it may have some endpoints, and that's fine. Initially, we'll have just one entry point. As I'm typing, by the way, you can see my hotkeys in the bottom of my screen. So when you first load the module, we have a little button here, and we'll change this. So you can type whatever you want, but there's a little button here, and then there'll be a click handler and so forth. Okay. And then so what do we do when we want to debug this or run this? We can select the configuration once we've configured everything to use the endpoints that we'd like. And this will kind of build your application and deploy it to a browser. And so as this is building, we can show you some features of GWT. And so inside the GWT framework, you can create a new entry point inside your source here. So inside the client version, and there's two sides of it. So there's the client, and then the client has some code that compiles down to JavaScript, and then that will have some remote procedure calls maybe to a server, and then you'll be running your application inside this kind of sandbox, and all of the code is kind of compiled down to JavaScript, as we mentioned, and it'll make the calls to the server. And so as you're debugging this, maybe you have some breakpoints that you'd like to use. But so let's create a new endpoint first inside our client. So you can do that by pressing Alt Insert and then selecting the Google Web Toolkit option here, and then we'll add a new entry point. So you can add either a GWT module, and these will have these will do a bunch of different things for you. So when you add a new entry point in GWT, you'll know you need to add that to your manifest as well inside the XML. And so if we add a new entry point here, let's say this is and this will automatically add a new class to our client implementation that implements the entry point interface, and then we can see here that it adds a new entry point inside your XML file here, the configuration. And then so in addition to that, we can add some different things as well. We can have different remote services, and IntelliJ IDEA will take care of the building that for you. Okay, and then so once this is built, we should be debugging it right now. So if we open up our debug window, it's waiting for a connection from the IDE extension, which is in Chrome. And so it says here it's listening on port 5052, and it'll automatically open up the browser for me. So I really didn't have to do anything. And it'll compile the module here in Chrome. And so just make sure when you're setting this up that your Chrome extension from JetBrains is listening to the correct port. So we can configure that here under the support options, and it'll be listening on 252. Okay, so this is good. And now when we compile the application, it will, if we set any breakpoints inside let's set a new breakpoint inside our entry point, or inside, say, our application. And so let's put one here right at the click. So you can do that either by selecting in the gutter here inside your editor, or you can do that by pressing Alt F8 to set the breakpoint. And then as it's compiling here, it should be done fairly soon. My computer is a little bit slower, but then it will stop at that breakpoint inside the JavaScript. So when it's running the JavaScript on your browser, then it'll recognize that breakpoint from the extension here, and then it'll stop. And you can control that both from the IDE and from the browser. Yeah. Additionally, you can set some breakpoints here inside the server. So inside your server application, you can set one, and that will work very nicely.
Yeah, this will be really good.
So if we open,
because the support for the original
debugging. It looks like Matti has the chart.
Yeah, I was just commenting this SuperDev Mode integration because this is so deeply integrated to IDE that it's really kind of making Qt alive again once you get it working, because of the original debugging system in Google Web Toolkit doesn't work pretty much at all anymore, because browsers don't support anymore this kind of original dev mode extension that they used to have. So this is really cool stuff for making extensions. Okay, now you have it there.
Yeah,
and now if you click,
it seems to be working now.
Yeah.
And so
okay. So
if you click here, it stops inside the IDE, right?
Yeah.
And at this particular line, right? And then so you can see it's paused in the debugger here. And then it's like, you know, it's very closely integrated. But so this is something that it doesn't take a whole lot of work to do. But if you're doing this in an earlier version of IntelliJ, then it might not have done this so well. So this is something we're pretty pleased to support.
Yeah.
And so I can resume this here in the browser or inside here. Now we're in our server-side implementation. You might not be able to see this very well because my screen is not very big. But you remember that I set a breakpoint inside the server as well. And so it'll stop at the server, and you can inspect all the variables on the stack and things like this, right? And so And so we have this, and then if we resume this, then click resume here, and we go back to the browser, and you see, so it doesn't really make sense. I was fiddling around with it a little bit, but the client will say something, and the server will apply.
Yeah.
And so this is just a quick example of how you can develop. It seems to work pretty well. And if you want to change your classes, so that's another thing that's pretty cool that I like, is that you can change like the implementation of it, and then you can just reload the class. So let's just show that really quickly. So you can do that both from the client. Let's say the client says something different. So okay, so the client will say this, and then when you make a change to the client, you'll just save it, and you can reload it straight from the browser. You see on the bottom right-hand corner of your browser, you can reload the GWT module, and that will compile it, and then it'll be fine, right?
Yeah.
And then from the server side, so remember that this is still running right now. It's all running on your server. And so let's say that the server says something polite as well. So, hi. Let's, hi. Okay, and then we'll save this, and then you'll say hot swap these classes in. So we'll reload these changed classes into the debugger, right? And so that will do is it will just those changed classes. So it'll do the bytecode hot swap. It'll put the compiled bytecode into the server, and then you don't have to rebuild your whole application, which, as you see, took however many minutes for me to build, right? Then I can just I can reload this page again, and everything should work with the new implementation. So you can configure this in your run configurations as well. So if you'd like to say by default, if you'd like to restart the server whenever you run the class, or hot swap change classes, or just redeploy, say, a whole archive, right? The one of the let's see if it works this time. Then it'll redeploy that. So it looks like another technical difficulties, but I'll leave it back to you, Matti.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I actually figured out the problem there, and it really was the FluBits issue. So I closed the project, deleted all the FluBits configurations from the command line, and opened it in IntelliJ again, and now it works. So this is the UI that we just built there. So now I have it running in Tommy, and as actually Breandan actually showed those dynamic changes. So I can, for example, change the chart type to spline. So this is now quite rough looking chart, but I can change the chart type and then make the project. And now, because I have the project deployed into Tommy, it will automatically show that I reloaded that it reloaded 2 classes to the Tommy, and if I just reload it there in the browser, the change is already there. So it's very fast development cycle. So
oh, wow.
You just you can, for example, make it area and build it and reload it, and then you have an area chart. So quite easy.
Oh wow, yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And so you could change, you were showing something a little earlier about how you could change the colors and the styles kind of automatically.
Yeah, but we were actually showing the real theme, not just the chart theme, but also this Vaadin applications theme. So
yeah, I thought that was
that was
cool.
really on our agenda also. So Vaadin themes are nowadays built with Sass. We have a new Valo theme, which is kind of a theme engine, and pretty much everything on our theme is parameterized. So this is actually our application theme, which is based on Valo. So it's extending using Sass kind of a CSS extension. So we can just fix some of or redefine some of the default parameters here. So for example, if I uncomment the background color, which is actually defining pretty much all the colors in our application, I can choose a different kind of color angle, for example, for this application. So the default color angle is something towards blue. So let's choose something towards red, like that. And then we can build the project. Or actually we can only build the Vaadin theme, so compile theme. And then actually we could also change the one button that we have here and give it a different kind of class name, style name, let's call it primary. So this is like a save button style for Vaadin application buttons. And then if we now redeploy or update classes and resources in the Tommy. So now we should have a new theme for our application. So now it's pretty much red, the theme. Okay. It's very easy to change the theme now in Vaadin, and especially if you have a tool like IntelliJ, which understands very well these Sass themes. But you of course need also some clue for styles, which I don't have, so that's why it became pretty ugly. But if you have the skills to choose the right colors and choose the right kind of margins and sizes for text and fonts, then it's pretty easy to configure your whole Vaadin applications theme just with a couple of parameters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's nice. So,
and actually the IntelliJ is very intelligent with Sass. For example, you can just dig into Valo theme like you were using Java code. So it understands very well these Sass themes. So you can just navigate right in the Sass code like you would be using real Java code, let's say.
Yeah, that's really cool. You can find like so each of these things is kind of indexed inside your project index, and then you can find any places that it's used. You can go to look into it. And so the idea of a file is kind of is the boundaries between each file is not so clear. It's not necessarily, well, you're working in these different files and I have to open them up and things like that. You can just jump right back and forth inside your code by doing that. So that's really neat. You can find out like more information about. So what's a good way if you want to learn more about Valo? Where should people go?
They should go. Let me show the demo page that we have. demo.vaadin.com/Valo. Valo theme. So this is actually just demonstrating all different kind of. There are some examples that you can do with just a couple of parameters. So I think there is something like 5 parameters that are changed in this. And this project is also available in GitHub. So go to github/vaadin/Valo demo. And there you can find all these theme variations. And then you can see what you can do with just, it's in the variables here. You can just see these variables have been changed for the flat version of Valo theme. So
that looks really great. I think so you can use today. You can use both Velo and IntelliJ IDEA 14 as well. You can use them side by side.
Yeah.
And so
yeah, they
you can
were
download an EAP, and they work very well together. Like despite the technical difficulties that we had today, I think that they represent like a really good combination for if you're developing like a business application and you don't want to build it from the ground up. You can use a template and you can customize your colors and your themes and everything like this. And in IntelliJ IDEA, the build lifecycle is very easy to manage.
Yeah.
As well. And so let's see. So let's do we have a time for any questions, Artem?
I think we can do something like 5 minutes for the questions. So we have lots of them, but let's answer a couple of them. And the first question, pretty interesting one, was about Scala support in IntelliJ and Vaadin. So what would you, Breandan, say about Scala support in IntelliJ?
Yep. So it's very easy to use Scala and IntelliJ IDEA. We have great support for some frameworks that you can start playing with, the Play framework, for instance, and SBT, and there's some examples of that that we can show you. But I think it works very well today. We have a lot of people who use Scala and IntelliJ IDEA together.
Yeah.
And I guess there's a demo of that that we can show with Vaadin as well. So
I'm actually not that experienced Scala users, but I really easily actually managed to open this project that I created with some Scala template. So this is using Vaadin and Scaladin project, which is kind of our semi-official Scala support. Or actually you can use plain Vaadin and Scala together, because with Scala you can also, of course, call normal Vaadin and Java classes, but Scaladin is kind of a wrapper which makes Vaadin API more Scala-like kind of. So this is a typical Hello World application with Scala and Vaadin. And because IntelliJ supports SBT builds, I only needed to kind of open this project or import as a project, and then choose the SBT, choose the folder that contained the SBT build, and IntelliJ configured everything automatically. The only thing I needed to do was to go to Preferences and Plugins, and then install the Scala support. So this is the official IntelliJ Scala support, and it contains the support for SBT as well. So that was the thing to do. And then now I can, for example, do SBT in the terminal window, which is pretty handy in IntelliJ actually. So this is a normal terminal window in the project directory. And then now I have the SBT terminal, and I can call container start, which actually starts Jetty server and executes this Vaadin Scaladin application. So now it's up and running, and if I go to browser, localhost, there. So we have a Vaadin Scala application running up right from the IntelliJ. So it works well, and there is also not just Scaladin related to Vaadin, there is also some other community efforts that try to make Vaadin development with Scala much more, let's say, more Scala-like. And you can expect that Vaadin supports Scala in the future as well, and also IntelliJ. And lots of
that's fantastic.
Yeah, and actually lots of Scala users who I have been discussing, most of them are actually using IntelliJ. Not that many Scala users use anything else but IntelliJ. So, although I'm not an expert on Scala, but I think you definitely want to use IntelliJ if you want to make some Scala applications.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for showing us that, Matti. I really haven't played around with it very much either, but I know that there's quite a lot of people who use Scala, and it's a good way to just try it out. Is to download the IntelliJ IDEA trial, and you can get the ultimate version if you're a student or if you're an open source developer for free.
Yeah.
That's completely available online, and that's one thing that people seem to use with their their own build tool and language, however they like. We support a bunch of languages, and so that's completely available. That's available today, and you can download that on our website, jetbrains.com/IntelliJ IDEA.
Yeah. There was also several questions about Visual Designer support for IntelliJ. So Visual Designer, which is making Vaadin UIs. That was probably the most asked question. I think there was 3 different persons who was asking about that. And actually, we now currently have a huge effort to improve our Visual Designer project. And one of the goals is there to make it so that it's well modularized out of Eclipse dependencies. So that should make it much more easier to create a real Visual Designer for different IDEs, including IntelliJ. So hopefully in next year or so, we will have a Visual Designer that works on pretty much any platform at all. Also as a standalone editor. So I'm not.
That's fantastic. Yeah. That's great to hear. Like I know we've had a bunch of people who've asked us about that as well.
Yeah.
Because we have a separate plugin and everything, and that's really exciting to hear. I think people will be. And do you have any in a timeline for that yet, Matti?
No, I think we have some internal goals that we have, but there is no public promises about timelines or deadlines for the project. But I would expect something within a year or so. So
cool. That'll be great.
We will be creating the foundations completely in a different way than it used to be, so it should be easier. But I would also like to state that most of the IntelliJ IDEA is also open source project, so it's pretty easy to make extensions also for IntelliJ. So I think there is a pretty good Visual Designer in IntelliJ for Swing, for example. So I think it might be a great option to create some kind of community effort to create a kind of a trimmed down version of the Visual Designer for Vaadin.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's Swing has pretty much the same components that Vaadin has. So you could have some kind of custom version of that, and that would just generate a Vaadin form stub, for example. Yeah.
Yeah. That'll be good to see. I think so you can get more information about writing plugins and things like that for IntelliJ IDEA. We'll put some links up for that after the webinar, and you can take a look at that. There's a huge open source community that kind of writes their own plugins and IDEs on top of IntelliJ IDEA, which is nice. So you've seen like a few of those, and I think that's great. So if you have any questions about doing, if you're interested in contributing, I'm sure the Vaadin team would be happy to accept any pull requests that you have.
Yeah, and actually the Vaadin support currently is built by your company, actually. So it's in the commercial edition, but I think it should be pretty easy to create also kind of an open source version, for example, for this Visual Designer part. So this actually, it was kind of a surprise for me that there is so huge set of different kind of plugins available for IntelliJ. So it's really vibrant community that you have.
Yeah, we're very lucky to have so many people who contribute plugins and who are so enthusiastic about using it, and we're really pleased to have great support for Vaadin and to show you that today. Thanks for having me, Matti. This is all Matti's idea. This was his effort. So I really like to thank him for setting this up.
Yeah. Okay. But I think we will not handle any more questions because we are kind of 5 minutes out of the 1 hour hard limit already, so let's quit this webinar now. If you have some extra questions about Vaadin and IntelliJ together, you can raise them up on the forum on this after this webinar. And we can follow that for a couple of days a bit more intensively and answer all the questions there. And if you have just some generic Vaadin related questions, please don't ask them on the IntelliJ webinar forum thread, but create a new thread with new questions. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Bye.
Thanks for joining us. Yeah.